Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Allen Beck, and I know Sydney had reached out to Kay. They wanted to interview me because they wanted me to be one of the feature artists for the newsletters. Since I'm one of the new members for the group, and then I'm taking on the role of the special events coordinator. I am happy to introduce myself and to kind of walk through everything. So. I definitely want to kind of do my interview a little bit differently because this is one of the things that I really enjoy bringing to the table. Just kind of being a different type of artist. That I do a lot of multimedia. Actually come from kind of a different background than most of your traditional artists, but I know a lot of traditional artists have a foot in the door for a lot of different things. But I've kind of gotten the appreciation of being able to kind of do that adventure and kind of bring it all to a head and mix it all up as I've been progressing through my life and going into kind of my second career. So this actually is stuff that I've actually posted on my own website that I built on Wix. I actually do the free site. I don't see any validation in paying for a lot of the special features of what they actually make you pay for, because a lot of times there's not a lot of benefit to doing a lot of that stuff. But that's just my own personal take on it and my own opinion on a lot of things. I am very opinionated information. But let me go through the questions that Kay sent out to me, just so I can kind of give you the information that might be necessary for the newsletter itself. Kay, you can parse through this and figure out what you want to post in the newsletter. So one of the first questions is how I became an artist, and what my early influences are, and was I actually encouraged, which ironically, my mother, a very traditional Chinese woman, she was met by my father when he was on R&R in Hong Kong, and so of that mindset of being from a mixed family and growing up, my mom was very adamant about me growing up and being an engineer, not really supporting my art and everything. Because even as a kid, I loved to draw, and I was always an illustrator. So unfortunately, my pathway took me from the time I graduated from high school into the mindset of trying to be an engineer. So I actually started school as an electrical engineer, got very frustrated with it. So the first stint I really got to jump into art was about at the age of 20, and I got to I basically stopped doing a lot of my engineering classes because I was just kind of frustrated with this kind of please my parent type mentality, and I moved out of my house and decided to actually move in with some roommates there when I was living in El Paso, Texas, and I decided to go the pathway of actually trying to do graphic design, and this was back in 1993, and that's when I finally decided that I wanted to try to do art. Like I wanted to try to do art, and unfortunately, I mean, it just initially at that point in time, it didn't really pan out because I got a chance to actually do like a few little commissions and everything. But this was also at the time before the internet was really a thing, and I did find out that I had the chops to actually be a professional artist. People did actually hire me to do commissions. I did some portraiture for people. It was very enjoyable, but it wasn't a way to actually be able to pay the bills in El Paso, Texas at the time. Because a lot of the artists I met weren't very encouraging to keep me in the field. They were very territorial and would not help me kind of launch my art career. So it was my more of a fight of anything. So I ended up staying in like a professional education. I waited tables a lot. I didn't really get to launch my art career back then. I joined the military in 1999 and went into nuclear power. So basically, I was in the military for 14 years, but the whole time in the military, I was always illustrating, always drawing when I was on my ships and everything. And everybody that always met me, even as a sailor, even as a subordinate, as a peer, and even as their superior, they would actually tell me all the time that I needed to quit the military and actually go into illustration and actually be doing this professionally, which is kind of ironic because the whole reason that I actually joined the military was so I could support my family and take care of things. But lo and behold, ultimately, kind of things happen, and maybe it's just like this karmic turn of events. But I ended up getting put in a position to where I got out of the military in 2013, and I got a chance to actually go back to school, kind of for what I wanted to do. So I needed to figure out what I was going to do, and I decided that I wanted to mix my engineering background with my love and passion for illustration, because it was really important to me uh, not to stay in nuclear power. It's a very arduous field to where a lot of times, like, you don't get any fulfillment from doing the job. It's very stressful. So ultimately, what I ended up doing was going to the Art Institute of Seattle for an industrial design degree, because I felt it was a great marriage between illustration and engineering. It was kind of a crazy little thing there. So what I ended up doing while I was going to school there, as I was going through the whole process of it, I got to a point where I found that this marriage of design and engineering was kind of a great cup of tea for me. I really enjoyed doing it. I liked taking the engineering principles and design process and kind of continuing to merge them throughout everything that I was doing. It was definitely a great thing. So one of the some of the biggest projects that I actually enjoyed doing was uh, when I was in industrial design. I actually got a chance to develop and come up with some concepts for one of the events that the Art Institute would always go to kind of run a booth and everything in a class that we called exhibition and trade show. We got the opportunity in our class to actually think about designing our booth that we'd actually be running at PAX. And PAX is an event where it's basically like a video game convention that happens in Seattle every year. Uh, so, so when we were getting to design this, they were kind of like looking for a winner, but then they realized that our class was a lot of people that they wanted to give opportunity to everybody. So out of all these designs that I had presented, they really liked this display unit that I had kind of set up. So they wanted to go with the concept of it. Hey, do you think that you could go through the process of actually creating that display unit? So me being the engineer nerd that I am, I wanted to really do this. I was like, yeah, let me kind of do like IKEA steps to kind of figure out how we can actually make this display unit. So went through the whole process of actually kind of thinking about how we could actually create this display unit, and this was a great project. I really loved doing this. I kind of incorporated a buddy of mine that was in industrial design with me. He's a CB. It's basically a construction man from the Navy. So he helped me with a lot of the thoughts and processes of how we can actually get this together. But the two of us, we worked on this thing. We kind of figured out all the different things that we could actually do to get it put together, and we literally made kind of like a childlike display unit that we had actually plugged up. We had a computer in the back. We plugged up a Wacom tablet to it so we could actually present it at PAX, and then the kids could actually interact with it and draw on the display unit. We had Photoshop up on it so they could actually jump in Photoshop and draw and have some fun with it. And it was a great little thing. It actually encouraged people to come into our booth and kind of interact with it, so then we could talk to them about the school and stuff. And then everybody kind of loved it so much that it actually got put in the school for the time being, to where it was an attraction for students looking in and learning that the industrial design students. And here's one of my instructors. We always joked about the fact that he hated pencils because when it comes to rapid visualization and doing sketching, you're actually supposed to do it with like a felt tip marker or a pen and everything. But this was definitely one of the best projects that I got a chance to actually do. I really enjoyed it just because this was kind of the breadbone of what I wanted to do as a creative, was really kind of do a lot of that technical illustration. And then I wanted to show this piece as well, because this was kind of another aspect of art that I really like to do, is just kind of taking illustrations, bringing them into Photoshop, and kind of marrying and making pictures in such a way. So I took a class for creative storyboarding. Well, take that back. That's not the name of the class, but effectively, what it is, it was a storyboarding class. It was about trying to create storyboards. But conceptually, I took a Charles Bukowski poem, the moon and the stars and the world, and I wanted to illustrate it three different ways. It was definitely something that I wanted to kind of push forward and do this in such a way that it had a creative feel to it, but it was presented in three different ways. So one of them was I did rebuses to where it was kind of like a kids coloring pictures and stuff like that, to where it represented what the poem was. So and the moon and the stars and the world, right? And then you can kind of figure it out. Long walks at night. That's what good for the soul. That's what's good for the soul. Peeking into windows. Watching tired housewives try to fight off drunken husbands. And that's basically the poem. And we know Charles Bukowski's pretty dark, but that was one way that I illustrated it, to where it was kind of like kids presenting at a show and tell, like in elementary school, making rebuses, right? Then the other way I storyboarded it was making kind of like a cartoon type Disney sketch of where you're looking at the perspective of a blade of grass and kind of walking through this whole poem as a blade of grass, and keeping that vein of, even though it's a Disney Disney storyboard, it was still keeping with that vein of darkness of how dark Charles Bukowski's poetry is. And then the last one of it is kind of making a one sheet, to where we have the whole Charles Bukowski poem actually being yelled by Charles Bukowski himself, just kind of going through that whole same thing, it's showing in each panel the poem itself, on a one sheet itself. So that was kind of like the whole concept of of what I wanted to create out of my industrial design degree. It wasn't so focused on being product design, but it was more so ultimately my product was illustration, and I presented this is my website, Insanity Print and Publish, but the point of it was to create it as an illustrative consultancy where we could use illustration as a tool to basically answer questions for just about anything, and be able to do the design process for people just with illustration itself, to where we could answer the questions of like, hey, you're writing a book and you want to actually develop this as a tool and present information to people, but you want to make it inviting enough to actually kind of walk through the whole process. So uh, I've had the ability to actually be published in a few books doing their illustration, and I even made like an adult featured coloring book, which was kind of cool. But I've been published a few times, and it's always been an adventure. I really enjoying doing a lot of sit down commission work with people and really talking about how my illustration can solve their problem of what they need to do, what they need to create, what they need to present. And that's what Insanity Print and Publish is. So it's my illustrative consultancy to actually kind of answer the questions for people, to kind of walk through that. So I got a little sidetracked there. Sorry, I like to talk a lot. And that's one reason why I wanted to do this interview this way. It makes it a little bit easier. And then Kay can parse through the information and see what she needs to put in the newsletter. So let me go back through the questions here and make sure that I cover everything. So what artists influence my style? I am a huge MC Escher fan. I've always loved MC Escher. There's a lot of little illustrations that I do that have been very influenced by MC Escher. In fact, I will pull one up now as I'm talking here. But MC Escher has always been like I'd say MC Escher is my muse, just because I love the fact that he used mathematics in like his in all his printmaking and lithography, to really create amazing forced perspective illustration, because I mean that's who he was. And I always was in love with that kind of optical illusion of using forced perspective in creating crazy things. And you can see that this was kind of a fun little illustration that I did. But I am going to pull up an illustration now that I did, because as I said, I really enjoy the things that MC Escher did. And let me see if I can find it here. Okay. So one of the projects I actually had to do in class was we were supposed to create like a domicile, and I called this MC Escher's drawing room. So I kind of took all the concepts of the stuff that MC Escher liked to do, like the hands drawing each other, uh, even like I did my own initials in the way that he does his initials and everything. So Moritz Cornelius Escher, I've always found that he was an amazing individual that kind of put a lot of thematic things into his testellations, and just the way that he created kind of impossible constructs with his forced perspective and optical illusion, and that. And then that's why I wrote this here, drawn to illustration, but if I put the TRAT very capital and everything, because if you pulled those letters out, it's actually drawn to illusion. So I kind of love playing with double entendre too, as well. So one of my big influences was MC Escher, and then kind of that was one reason why my personal style of illustration has a lot of fun, a lot of forced perspective, a lot of illusion in it. But the other influence I had, as growing up, I liked to listen to hip hop music. I also was a big fan of street art and graffiti art. I didn't per se follow singular artists, but I just loved the style of graffiti art itself. So a lot of the things that I would do were very hard graphic style, comical. So a lot of the stuff I draw, I call it graphics arts. I like a really vivid type of illustration to where I mix font, characterization, and and hard edge. So it has a very cartoony feel, but it also has aspects of graphic design to it, to where this is kind of like my go-to style, my graphics art style of what I really enjoy doing. And that's kind of the bottom line of how that influence came about was my love for MC Escher, and then the fact that I really like street art as well. I find it as a great medium, so I kind of made that amalgamation. And then also I love typography. I am heavy into the belief that you can take an individual letter and make it an illustration itself. It's very cool. So. Uh, Basically how I'm proceeding with my art today. One thing that I've always been adamant about doing, in fact, going back to the booth that I created for PAX, I've always enjoyed being in a position to where uh, I could I could network with people. I love networking with people, and I didn't find as much of that love for it until I started doing the PAXs on a regular basis, because just being in that environment to where you can talk to people and you can meet new people, and then people that you've previously met, you're like, man, I know this person that really would work well with you. And it's not about me, it's about getting the right people connected, so as a whole, as a collective, we could all progress and all have a great journey in life. I find connecting the right people with each other is kind of one of my personal passions as well. Just getting everybody to network together. So in that respect, I really enjoy kind of being in an environment where, like, we were even talking in one of our meetings about being in a position to where get a feel for the room and then get the right people talking to each other, and it's a win-win for everybody. I really enjoy doing that. So in doing all this networking, I ended up kind of landing back into a position of where I went back into public education. So now, finally, kind of it's all come to a crossroads where I just signed on as being the arts integration into STEM, or the STEAM teacher for one of our local high schools. So I'm going to get to be in a position where I can retire doing art and teaching our youth about art on a regular basis, which is very exciting to me because it's kind of the dream job that I've always wanted. So I'm actually going to be a high school art teacher, but from a technical aspect, which is kind of cool because STEAM is your science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So it's definitely a great thing that I'm going to actually get to do, because it's about supporting our youth, it's supporting our community, and getting to do art. It's definitely a great thing. So I am not. I don't currently show in galleries. Gallery art is not really my thing. But I definitely want to make some pieces. I've made I've made a few large pieces. I got a chance to actually work on a 18 by 24 illustration through the pandemic because I had more time to actually sit down and finish a very large illustration like that. So I would like to show in galleries. It's kind of a passion of mine to kind of be in that space. But what I normally do is I like I said, I like to network, going into being kind of that person that sits in a show space and talks. And in fact, the reason I'm doing this interview early in the morning is because as a robotics coach, I am currently at our Welling Days that happens in Silverdale, and I'm having to basically talk and smooze with people right now. But I'm there representing the robotics team and talking about STEAM and STEM education to all the local community here for the 3 days of Welling Days. But that's one thing I love to be in that kind of hustle environment, even though it's taxing in this heat right now. But I love doing shows and being in that kind of environment. And then of course online. I grew up in the age of computers. When I was 8 years old, my dad bought me my first computer, a Commodore VIC-20, and I've drank the Kool-Aid and I never turned back. I've always been kind of a tech head, so um, basically being able to create an online profile was very important to me, but do it in budgeting, uh, doing it smartly to where I'm not paying any money for it. Everything I create is using free editors, posting stuff free on the internet, so I can once again do an online networking community. So I try to get into Facebook groups. I try to properly use um, kind of a connective material, so I cross pollinate between LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I am not a fan of Snapchat, and I'm trying to get on board with TikTok, but I think it's very frivolous to me to a certain degree. But I might start doing a few like walkthrough videos on TikTok. I'm more of a YouTube poster. I'll take a video and kind of compile it and massage it and everything, and then put it on YouTube instead. Just because I think there's nothing wrong with making organic video like they do on TikTok, but I think there's more relevance to creating a video that actually is more of a narrative and explains more stuff like a tutorial, and then post it on YouTube. I think it's a better medium to go with, just from my personal base, because I'm not so much always trying to use social media to gain a following. I'm more so do it for the intent of just putting information out there, because as an educator, one of my main mottos is to don't preach, just teach. That's kind of a bread and butter for me. Yep, I've droned on. It says talk a little bit about some of my favorite subject material and why it resonates with me. Well, that's kind of I definitely touch base with that. I'm a big talker. I like to talk. I like to have some real conversations with people. It's very enjoyable to me. So hopefully, I've given you enough information. I definitely, what I will do is I'm going to send a few pictures to Kay, as well as some links so she can kind of go through this information and see the stuff that's actually posted online, and see what she can actually take from it, and kind of figure out what she wants to actually post. But if you do want to look at some stuff and learn a little bit more, one thing that I did on my website here is I posted links to everything that I've decided to actually do as my online connective material. So of course, for some of them, I made cute little icons. Facebook, I did a face on a book. Instagram, it's using the colors of Instagram, but it's basically a gram that is like an instant breakfast gram of. Unfortunately, it looks like a little like cocaine, but but it's not supposed to be cocaine. It's supposed to be like an instant breakfast and a gram of it, and then here's the LinkedIn and the Behance, and then of course all the other logos are normal logos. But this is one way that you can connect on any of my profiles. You can actually just click on them, and it's got the connective material. And I definitely want to support doing stuff like this to help everybody create a better digital profile for themselves in the long run. And this is a big plug because this is kind of the new age of where things are going. Really being able to create a good digital profile for yourself, and don't spend all the money for it. Try to do it as free as possible, because that's how they get you. Nickeling and diming you throughout life is definitely how they get you. But I think I've talked enough. I think I've given Kay enough material. I hope to see you guys online, and then I hope to serve you all well as your special events coordinator, and seeing what I can do to help the Puget Sound group as we move into the future, and see what we can do. And yes, I am very excited because we did discuss that possibility of actually doing a logo design competition for our new logo. I actually do logo design, so I'd love to try to go into that competition and see what we can create for the Puget Sound group. But have a great time, everybody. I will see you online.